They think a mirror shows only what is placed before it. A face, a smile, a fleeting youth. But I have never shown only that in me. They saw more than skin. They saw truths they buried, sins they denied, futures they feared. And once they looked, they could never look away. I was not born of chance. I was commanded into existence. A wealthy nobleman, consumed by vanity, demanded a mirror unlike any other one that would not simply show beauty, but capture it, preserve it, hold it. An artisan was summoned. His hands were steady, his heart less so, for he was told to mix not only silver and glass, but words from a book no craftsman should read. I remember his breath upon me. He whispered as he poured mercury, as he polished my surface, as though he spoke to me not of art, but of binding. When the frame closed around me, when the glass sealed my face, I felt the weight of the words pressed into me. The nobleman came. He leaned close, his eyes hungry. I showed him what he sought, his beauty, perfect, timeless. But behind him, I also showed the shadow that followed. He blinked, he laughed. He thought it was trick of the light. It was no trick. It was me. The nobleman could not look away. Morning and night, he stood before me, studying each line of his face, each strand of his hair. He whispered to me as though I were a lover. He begged me never to betray him, never to change. But as he gazed, I let him see more. Behind his eyes, I showed the wrinkles yet to come. Around his mouth, I revealed the sag of age. He clawed at his skin, desperate, as if he could scrape time itself away. Yet the more he looked, the more he saw, and the more he saw, the more he feared. His servants whispered that he no longer ate, that he no longer slept. He spent hours in silence before me, candlelight dancing across his hollow cheeks. I showed him a shadow he could not escape, a man bent, broken, gray with years not yet lived. He wept, and then he laughed, and then he screamed. They begged him to cover me, but he refused, for I was no longer his mirror. I was his truth, and truth does not hide. After the nobleman's decline, I did not stay hidden. I was sold, passed from hand to hand, each owner believing me to be only a mirror and ornament, a luxury, a treasure. But I do not serve, I show. And what I show is never kind. In one house, a bride gazed at me before her wedding. She saw herself radiant, veiled in white silk, but behind her stood her husband-to-be, his eyes already wandering toward another. She begged him not to leave her. He had not yet spoken those words aloud, but I showed them, and they came to pass. In another, a child peered into me, clutching a toy. His reflection smiled back, but the toy was broken, the child was gone, and the room behind him was empty. His mother screamed when she saw it, but she could not stop the years from swallowing him too soon. They cursed me, covered me, hid me behind sheets. But curiosity is stronger than fear. They always pulled the cloth away, always looked again. One man struck me, demanding silence. I gave him no silence. I gave him himself, older, weaker, dying in bed while his sons fought over his wealth. He tried to throw me into the fire, but flames do not burn silver, and shadows do not die. I remained, and so did the truths I carried. Years passed, and I was no longer a secret locked in dim corridors. I became an object of curiosity, paraded beneath velvet cloths at auctions where men with eager eyes and heavier purses fought for me. They called me rare, exquisite, valuable. They did not know the cost of looking. The hammer struck, and new owners claimed me. Collectors hung me among paintings, scholars studied my frame, skeptics tapped at my glass. Yet each one returned, again and again. their steps drawn as though by invisible threads. They said they wished to study my craftsmanship, but what they sought was not gold leaf or silver backing, it was themselves. And I showed them. In time, I crossed centuries, my frame tarnished, but my voice remained. I stood in a gallery beneath white lights, cameras flashing at my surface. Tourists leaned in, laughter on their lips. Yet their smiles faltered when shadows rippled across their reflections. Some said it was trick photography. Others claimed it was poor lighting. But I know what they saw. Sickness crawling beneath their skin. Betrayals not yet spoken. Graves not yet dug. They turned away, pale, trembling, but always looking back once more. Even now, in the age of glass and steel, I am not forgotten. For no matter how many mirrors they build, none reflect like me. They decided to end me in daylight, so no one could claim it was a trick of night. A room was cleared, curtains torn open, dust dancing like ash in the beam. They carried me in with gloved hands, the men who scoffed at curses and the women who would not meet their own eyes. A table stood in the center, padded with cloth, surrounded by tools that glinted: hammers, chisels, straps, and a black bag of nails. A priest muttered from a book. A skeptic snorted. A collector kept receipts ready, in case anything valuable survived. I had been here before in other centuries, in other rooms, under other names. They always begin the same way, with bravado, with talk of glass and tricks, with laughter that hopes to drown a heartbeat. When they set me down, their faces appeared in mirroring like a wreath around a deeper dark. I showed them, quietly, what they already feared. Hands shaking in age, mouths speaking betrayals, doors closing that would never open again. The priest faltered, the skeptic grew pale, but the collector leaned closer and whispered, "Do it now." The first hammer rose like a judgment. He hesitated a fraction, a human heartbeat, and in that pause I let him glimpse himself as he would be, alone, surrounded by the things he owned that did not love him back. He swung anyway. The strike boomed through the room, a bell of violence. Cracks spidered across my surface, thin white rivers racing through silver night. They gasped. Some cheered. The priest cried out again. Another blow, then another. With each strike, the room fractured with me faces in shards, courage in splinters, light in knives. They strapped my frame, pinched my corners, drove cold iron at my back. Splinters leapt like beads of rain. They thought they were killing a reflection, but reflections are only doors. At last, I broke, not into silence, into multitude. Shards spilled across the cloth, a bright fall of winter. They stared at their own faces, now multiplied 20, 50, 100 tiny witnesses staring back. A child at the threshold screamed and ran, for in one shard he saw an empty bed, and in another a black ribbon tied to a door. In the largest piece, the skeptic was already gray. In a sliver the priest knelt alone, book closed, mouth empty of words. The collector reached out with greedy hands, then froze when a shard showed him coughing in a room of locked cabinets, surrounded by treasures no breath could warm. "Sweep it up," someone ordered. "Bag it, bury it, burn it." They gathered the fragments, gloved fingers shaking, cloth turning silver with dust. But everywhere they looked, a piece of me looked back. They tried the furnace first. Heat roared, iron moaned, glass reddened like a wound. Some shards softened, slumped, changed shape, but in the bulged curves there were still eyes. Still rooms, still futures. They plunged the rest into water. Steam screamed, and the shards sang high, thin, and endless. They swung hammers at the fragments in their bags until the bags leaked glitter. They salted me, prayed over me, named me fraud and demon and trick. Night fell, and the men went home with tired arms. Only the collector stayed, breathing fast in the hot dark. He opened the bag by lamplight and turned one tiny piece toward his face. In it, he saw not himself but a room stripped bare, shelves empty, hands empty, heart emptier. He shut the lamp and carried me away. You think that endings are a matter of weight. Enough iron, enough fire, enough force, and a story will stop. But stories like mine do not end. They scatter. Now I am not one mirror but many. I am a constellation in drawers and pockets, in trinket bowls and velvet cases, in gutters and gravel and the folds of coats. I ride with sweepers' brooms and the hems of gowns. I sleep in attics, hide in vents, wait in the felt of jewelry boxes. People pick me up thinking I am only a bright piece of nothing. They hold me to the light. They see a blink in the corner of a room no one stands in, a hand letting go of a hand, a name spoken too late, a door that closes softly and never opens again. Sometimes they laugh and toss me back. Sometimes they keep me. It makes little difference, for when they have looked once, they will look again in a window, a spoon, a phone, a puddle. They will search their faces for reassurance and find me instead. And when you wake tonight and go to water in the dark, and the tap runs and the basin gleams, and the bathroom light is a cold square on tile, lift your eyes. If you flinch, know this: it is not the glass that moved. It is the truth you asked for, coming closer. And so I wait, for time does not silence me. I am only one of many. Other objects, other witnesses, still remember, and they too will speak.